Shalom and good day all, this is Healing29 back again for another anime review, and in this anime review, or this anime movie review, this is Free the Final Stroke Part 1. What I'll do is I'll give you the synopsis of the story, to which it says, the new stage of Haruka Nanase is Sydney. Before leaving Japan, Haruka accidentally confronts his rival who fought in a tournament. World-class swimmers gather together in the Sydney tournament, to which there will be a fierce battle which is about to begin. The key cast of characters that make their appearance in this story are Haruka Nanase, Ikuya, Kirishima, we also have Rin, Matsuda, we also have the return of Makato, Ryuji, and of course return of the character of Nagisa, to which we will get to see a little bit more take place. So what I'll do now is, before starting to review this movie, I'll give a little bit of information that I've watched from sort of like watching the first somewhat half an hour of it. But I will be rewatching and talking about what happens within the first half an hour. So this particular movie goes for about an hour and 25 minutes, maybe an hour and 27 minutes. So what I'll try to do in the reviewing of this movie, I'll try to cover, say, the first 5 minutes, or I'll watch the first 5 minutes, give a bit of an update on those first 5 minutes in the audio. Then after that, start doing it in 10 minutes, or start giving an outline of the story of it every 10 minutes. So of the things that I already know in relation to the story, in regards to time and events, we have some flashbacks in regards to some of the characters in the story, as we get to see things in relation to Haruka and Makato and the swim team, the swim championships at Sydney, so that's a part of the events that take place in this story. There is also a festival at a particular school. Some of the locations that we get to see take place, we of course see the schools. So we get the Iwatobi school, we get the other school, the Semizuka. We get to see the pools that they go to. Of course, there's Sydney, Australia, to which we also see, and we return back to Japan. And going back over the cast of characters that we do see in the story, I know I brought it up earlier, but I am bringing it up again. So we've got Haru, Nagisa, Rin, Makato, Rei, Coach Sazabi, Ikuya, Akashi, Kisumi. We also have the return of Tuno, who is Ikuya's friend. We also see the return of many others, such as Albert. Also, the newer members that make up the characters of the present-day Iwatabi Swim Club. So we have Roby, Shizu, Kinjo. We also have Asuna, Sosuke, which connects to Semizuka. We still see the return of Nitori and Go. And now it's time for me to make a start on this part 1 of the Free Iwatabi Swim Club. The Free Iwatabi Swim Club film, The Final Stroke Part 1, or Volume 1. So this is the first arc. So as the story begins, sort of like in the first 6 to 7 minutes, we are introduced to the characters of Nagisa, who is sort of like arranging to get like a bit of a documentary done around the character of Haruka Nanase. And in this documentary, we end up catching up with the character of the coach. We also have Makoto, Rin being there, and of course with the interview happening there, there's also Ray talking about how Haru has also made him aspire to being a better swimmer compared to what he's done in the past. We do get some flashbacks. In regards to these flashbacks, we see, in regards to some of these flashbacks, it sort of like connects a little bit more to Haru's past, but we do get a flashback a little bit after, sort of like in the first 5 to 7 minute mark, that connects to another character that is within this series, to which we, I think it's Asahi, to which I've also spoken about this character in like some of the other seasons that I've covered, and also the additional. So now it's time to still continue going through this first arc. I'll probably be coming back to, or be covering the next 10 minutes in the next part of the audio. So after watching the next 10 minutes of this particular part of the movie, some of the things that have occurred has been the festival that, a joint festival that's been held between universities, and in this particular festival we actually get to see a bit of interaction with Akuya, Rin, Haruka, Tuna, and a couple of others that are all connected to those who will be travelling overseas to Australia or to Sydney. And whilst they're travelling over to Sydney, we do learn that there is some other people who have turned up at the scene, especially there's Azuma. We also get some scenes around the Iwatabi Swim Club, to which they are being interviewed sort of like by a sports news network in Japan. And they're sort of like not the only ones that will probably get review. We then catch up later on with members such as Makato, Asahi, Tuno at a cafe, to which whilst they're at this cafe, they are talking about the events that are going on in Sydney, Australia, to which when we do drop into Sydney, Australia, we get to see Rin and Haru sort of like reflect on the times to which they were there, and how Sydney actually played a role with Haru starting to find what his actual dream was, and that was sort of like to make the world stage in the swimming. I'll now watch the next 10 minutes and come back afterwards. So as the next 10 minutes pass, everyone, a number of people go to Rin's home. So we have Nagisa there, we have Momo there, we have Notori there. Of course, we have his sister Go there. Not only do we have Go, we also have their mother also there. And they are preparing themselves to watch the events that are taking place in Sydney, to which we see that things are starting to work on the qualifying rounds in relation to the main people who will be in these swimming events. So we, during this time period, we do learn that Haru gets through his qualifying round and makes it through. There are a couple of other people that make it through, such as the character of Albert. We have Akuya there, that's there. Not only Akuya, we have Rin and a couple of others. I won't give away who, just yet who makes it through, but we do see these qualifying rounds start to go through at the beginning. And from the qualifying rounds, it will move to the next area, which is the semi-finals. So I'm definitely looking forward as to see how it will go about with that. So after watching the last 10 minutes in relation to this particular um, film in relation to the Free Iwatani Swim Club series, in this we end up having Haruka as well as Rin catch up with their respective coaches within the story, and they talk about like some of the events that took place. We do learn that some of the characters did sort of like struggle to get through a little bit further in the qualifying events. I won't give names, but no doubt it will probably come across later in the further parts of the story. We do actually get a really nice event that happens between Akuya as well as Rin, as they speak about some of the things that happen with their particular qualifying swim events, and that was really nice. And you do get a little bit of a flashback that connects to sort of like both their pasts as things draw further within the story. We see Rei contacting Makoto and talking to Makoto about the events that have taken place in Sydney, Australia, and also hoping that Haru is doing okay in this particular journey that he's on, in basically finally meeting the world stage in regards to his swimming and his career. We do see a couple of characters that do feel a little bit disappointed, or feel like they disappointed, that they did disappoint Team Japan, because they do represent Japan in this story. And I'll come back after watching the next 10 minutes of this movie. So after the completion of these next 10 minutes covering the story, we see that there's a lot of show don't tell that is happening here, and we get to see the upcoming event which Haru is participating in. We also get a bit of a flashback of sorts in relation to Makoto and Haru, as Makoto goes to a shrine in Japan to sort of like lift his friend up in prayer, and also the friends of others who want Haru to go well in the particular events that he's participating in. As things advance through this part of the story, we do get to see Haru go up against the characters of Kinja and Albert, and whilst that we start to see the character of Haru start to dig into some deeper motivation of sorts to cause him to swim a little bit faster against the characters of also Kinja and Albert. Albert ends up dropping out of the race. We realize that Haru and Kinja end up making it into the top 8. Not long after that, we end up returning to Japan, seeing the characters of sort of like the main Iwatobi Swim Club that are basically cheering him on, whilst Haru is presently in Australia. I'll now move into watching the next 10, and after that I'll come back with what happens in that. So after finishing the last 10 minutes, or the next 10 minutes of this, we do get a bit of reflection time for like after the events that took place in Sydney. We get to see Haru catch up with Makoto, and also some of the other people who participated in the Sydney Championships. We get to see what's happening with Akuya. We also get to see what's happening with Rin. We also do see that Haru is a little bit more motivated after the events that took place in regards to what happened at the Sydney Championships. So from there, we do end up moving into other events, which for some of the characters, they are arranging sort of like a bit of a swimming camp of sorts, which is really quite interesting. So making sure that they're getting what they need, whether it's nutrients, whatever is important to the lead up of the next upcoming championships. And we do get an indication of that via Coach Sasabi, when there's a bit of a talk with one of the students that attended the Iwatabi Swim Club. We also catch up with the character of Nagisa and Ray as they too also prepare to head off into university, and that sort of like happens around the mid part or I guess early mid part of the first of the 10 minutes in this particular part of the story, until of course we catch up with Makato once again, along with a couple of others, as they use this as a bit of time to reflect on past and present, and eventually where things will be taking them to the future. The next part, I'll be covering the next 10 minutes after I've watched the 10 minutes. So after finishing off this next 10 minutes of the part of the story, we end up seeing like many of the members who participated, along with sort of like their supportive members, finally go attend the party together, to which whilst they attend this party, and we do get a bit of a small time frame of time passing by, as well as we notice within the story. As that advances, we notice one of the characters, being Rin, walking out of the room, to which Makato notices that Rin looks a little bit more down than usual, and he speaks to him and he gives him some supportive advice. Not long after that, they do sort of like return to the main room, to which they were having a bit of a party in. Not long after that, we get a little bit more reflective time, once again with the key cast of characters that are sort of like taking center stage in this particular part of the story, and they're mainly Haru, Rin, Akuya, and of course we have Haru thinking of, okay, by the time he reaches 20, he's just going to be just another ordinary person, and you can see that he wants to be something more than just ordinary, even though he's participated really well, also put in quite a lot of effort. If you've been watching through this whole series, in relation to the Free Iwatabi Swim Club, he does actually put in quite a lot of effort, and yes, there are places where he does mess up, but he also works to rebuild himself back up again. We also catch up with a little bit with with like some of the other coaches. They both feel a little bit upset in regards to one of the characters as well, to which they really wanted to swim against. And as we start to draw towards the end of this 10 minutes, we do see Rin sort of like dropping back into Semazuka, as well as Haru and Makato dropping back into the Iwatabi Club, and they get to catch up with what's happening with Nagisa and Ray, and where they're planning on going to with their future plans. And sure enough, we do learn that they have already decided where they're going for their future plans, or their where they'll be going for university, which is really nice. And it's also getting to the stage to which the captain has been chosen, for who will be taking over the Iwatabi Swim Club in this part of the story, and no doubt we'll probably learn as I start to draw towards the end where these characters will be going to. Oh, I forgot to add, we also catch up with Momo and Nitori at Semazuka when Rin returns, and also what they're doing. As the second last part of the next 10 minutes, or as we draw closer to the last couple of minutes of this particular film, we end up seeing Haru catch up with Makoto and his family, whilst other members catch up with their families. It's nice to see what happens with Akuya, and also what's happening there, and also Rin. We also move to see some of the things that are happening with Haru in this particular case, and we come to see Haru go to a little trip with Makoto, only to sort of like be brushed aside because of something that came up with Makoto. Then realizing that, okay, now that he's left alone, there's only one place that he can sort of think of going. We see him basically return to a place near the Iwatani Swim Club that he used to go to which whilst he's there, we see him starting to fight with his conscience, as he's also approached by the character of Rin. And it's really interesting as, I guess, things sort of spice up, and we get to see a side of Makoto we don't really, not Makoto, we get to see a side of Haru that we don't really see that much in the series. And it's like he's gone almost full dark side. It's the only way to bring it. That he's now carrying it. I don't know if it's resentment or anger, that he's sort of like lost a little bit in the World Championships. We do know that the next lot of World Championships are taking place in Athens, and he does intend on going there, but when he goes there, you can definitely see he's going to have a one-track mind, and I got no idea what is sort of like now planned for like the last 10 minutes for this part 1 or volume 1. So I'll come back to you after I watch that. Oh, I also want to point out that this review for this particular movie is done in July 17, 2024. Okay, so as things draw to a close for this particular movie, in these last couple of minutes, we get to see like some of the finishing things that take place for this particular volume 1 or part 1, for the final stroke. We see that after the events of Rin and Haru catching up, Rin of course returns home, whilst Haru is sort of like left behind where he is, at the place of the Iwatani Swim Club, like his early places. And whilst we're seeing next to him, he's got like a place to him that says for the team. So he wanted to be a team player, and it's sort of like he's taking in the events that took place. And we also sort of see the same thing in relation to Rin, as Rin sort of like left Haru. One of the things that he sort of brought across to him is that he wanted to basically be in another relay team match with him. So participating against the world with sort of like Rin, Haru, and whoever else happened to be on the team. Only for that to be, I guess, thrown aside because of things that Haru said, that was a little bit out of his own character, that he's not normally used to saying. We then move a little bit to overseas as to what is happening there, and we get to see the character of Albert, and we see that he's basically in the mindset of preparing of, he sees these people wanting to push to be stronger, but also pushing to be unbeatable. And at the moment, he's sort of like one of the unbeatable characters in this series at the moment. And how that will be happening in the next part, I don't know yet. Then we move into after the credits, to which there's a bit of a quote. And that quote is, "At the age of 10, you're considered a prodigy. Once you're 15, you're seen as a genius. But once you reach 20, you're just another ordinary person," as this is sort of like come up from beginning to the end in relation to this particular area of the final stroke. Now, jumping into the next thing, and that is my afterthoughts in relation to this particular movie. I must admit, this movie really had a lot going to it. There was quite a bit to follow and quite a number of characters to follow, but at least we know who the main characters are that we are following, I guess, in this last stream of events for these characters. So we know that Ikuya's an important character or an important main character in this. We know that Haru's a main character in this, and also Rin. We also have other characters such as Albert, Kinjo, and a couple of others that I feel I might have missed. Then there's the supporting characters, to which we know connect to basically the places that they've come out of and where they're going, or where they've come from to where they're going now. So we have the Iwatobi Swim Club as the supporting characters. We also have the Semazuka as their supporting characters, and anyone else that are connected to those members that are now presently participating in the World Championship in the story. And the next is the soundtrack. I think the soundtrack has been quite good in this. It's a bit hard to sort of like find a soundtrack for it online, so I had to use something else. And then there's the animation. I actually quite like the animation in this particular movie, and I hope it's consistent once again. The voice acting and the subtitles were great in this. I felt I was able to follow it through without any problems, and I really liked that. Moving into the next area, now it's time for the rating, and starting off with the rating of the main characters. So as I brought up before, the key main characters in this story would have to be Ikuya, Rin, and also Haru, and we get to see how they play a part in advancing in the World Championships, but also who they're also up against and what are the odds of sort of like getting into the next part and also becoming a bit of a world champion. Even though we do learn that some of the characters do make it into the top 8, which is really good. For this, I give the characters an 8 out of 10. Next is the area of the supporting characters. I feel in regards to the area of the supporting characters, it feels again like it's another 8 out of 10, as only so much screen time was given with the supporting characters in the story. Of course, it was nice to see Nagisa, but I must admit, Nagisa isn't the center of attention this time, even though he is in regards to sort of like one thing that's going to take place, which will probably be seen in the next part of the story as to where he'll probably go. He's still my favorite character, still one of my favorite characters that I like in the series, but how will things go as we draw towards the end of the series? Will he still be one of my faves, or will that be changing? So for that, an 8 out of 10 for both. So 8 for main, 8 for supporting. Next is the area of the soundtrack, to which I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I feel like the soundtrack could have been a little bit better for this story, but that might end up changing once I move into Volume 2 or Part 2. So 7.5 for the soundtrack. Next is the area of the animation, to which I'm going to give an 8 out of 10. I actually quite like the animation, what they used for this, and how they used it in relation to the characters, what they were participating in. And last but not least is the area of the story. Oh my goodness. I almost thought at times that it might be a little bit hard to follow through as to where they were taking these characters and the story. But once I sort of once I was able to pinpoint who were sort of like the front and center characters in this story, I did find it easier to follow the story. So for that, I will give it an 8.5 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colorful and have yourself an awesome day.